Hey everybody, my name's Case. Let's just gonna start that shit over. What's going on, everyone? My name is Case. This is Systemic Caseism, and today we're gonna talk about the American Dream. Does anybody talk about the American Dream anymore? I don't know. Like, we hear a lot about the American Dream, right? But what exactly does it mean? See, the phrase the American Dream first appeared in a book titled Epic of America. It was written in 1931. And the American Dream is a dream of a land in which life should be better and richer and fuller for everybody. You know, opportunity, each according to ability or achievement. Sounds pretty good to me, and I believed it at one point in my life that it was true, or at least true for most people. That idea, if you're willing to work hard and you don't blow all your money on gambling or booze, that you'll be able to support yourself and raise a family. You get married, have a couple kids, live pretty well on one income, depend on a pension, retire at 65, move to Florida and play golf. And I think for many people that was true. The last generation that was true for was the boomers. But the American Dream was achievable. To summarize it, you could graduate high school or not, get a job, work hard, raise a family on one income, live comfortably in a decent neighborhood. Well, that time is gone. Like, really, the last generation that enjoyed it was the boomers. And for some reason, they decided they needed to ruin it for everybody else who was unfortunate enough to be born after them. The boomers love to pat themselves on the back for all the social changes they've made, but I'm not so sure they deserve it. I know damn well they're overstating their involvement in it. What exactly did the boomers do to deserve such grandiose accolades? Like, as far as I can tell, there's two types of boomers, all right? There's the ones that got drafted for Vietnam, and then there's the ones that went to Woodstock in college and avoided it on a technicality. Those are the same ones screaming that Donald Trump avoided the draft because of bone spurs. Those people didn't go to Vietnam. All the people that are criticizing Trump for not going to Nam or Korea, didn't they themselves go? All right, the Woodstock hippies believe they changed the world for the better. But that's only because they're narcissistic, self-important lunatics. All right, not all of them, but the radicals and the people that didn't dissent against them are. All right, they're still protesting for more rights. Right? Everybody has all the rights these days. Apparently not. Apparently 5-year-olds getting sex changes is genocide. And so the boomers, especially the ones that don't have children, are going to protest with trans flags and scream at cars driving down the road. I was raised by boomers, and they sent me to a cult. I was born in 1981, and America at that time was optimistic in spite of the economic disaster created by the second or third worst president in the history of the U.S., Jimmy Carter. May he rest in peace. Now, when I was growing up, the American dream had been tweaked a bit by the boomers, and the changes they made have been catastrophic to all of us. All right, the outcome was the same, but bit by bit they added, like every bit that they added created a mess for every generation after them, and I'm going to explain how. The adjustment went something like this. Take out a student loan because your boomer parents aren't saving a goddamn dime for your college fund. All right? You put yourself into massive debt and you go to college. You get a job that you hate that pays well. But it better be a good school and it better be an approved career because we want to brag to all of our boomer friends that our kid went to Princeton or Rutgers or Duke and he's a surgeon or an engineer or something important. Right? It had to be a college that someone else would be jealous of. That's how the boomers operate. That's how a lot of them operate. All right? It was never about being proud of your kids. It was about the image of having something that your friends didn't have. Got to go to college if you want to make it in this world. Can't have an uneducated child. My boomer parents grilled me on what I was going to do when I grew up from like a really young age. And they were never happy with the answers. All right? I wanted to teach guitar. It was like one of the only things that I was actually good at. And I remember telling my dad, like, he would ask me all the time, all right, well, son, what are you going to do when you grow up? And I never really had an answer until I started playing guitar. And I remember telling him one time that, like, hey, I think I want to be a guitar teacher. You know, like, my guitar teacher was one of the adults that I knew that seemed genuinely happy. And that was my American dream. You know, that's what I believe the American dream was. Get a job that you love, do what you love, and you can make money doing it. My guitar teacher seemed to be all right financially for what I knew. You know, I mean, he had a car, he had a wife, he had a house, and he taught guitar. And my dad looks at me and he goes like this. He goes, "Your guitar teacher is a loser, and there's no way that he's happy." I told him, well, money isn't everything. And then he responds with something like this, like, "No, but it is the most important thing." That is the mindset of the boomer. All right, and I got off easy. I went to community college and dropped out after 6 months. But a lot of people didn't. All right, a lot of people actually went all the way through with it. Let me just tell you right now, college is not for everybody. In fact, it's not for most people. I didn't want to go to college. I didn't need any more school. I needed to live. And back in 1999, you could afford to live on a crappy income. Like, things were tight, but it was possible to live a decent life off of $9 an hour. You're going to have roommates. You're probably going to live in a shitty part of town. But, like, you could live off $9 an hour comfortably enough. You could afford everything. So, for me, dropping out of community college after 6 months turned out to be a great decision. Right? Americans have been brainwashed into this idiotic idea that everybody has to go to college, that you're not a good person or on the right track if you don't go to college. And that nonsense was pumped into everybody by the boomers. Make no mistake, this is one of the pillars that the boomer mindset rests on. And it's a dumb idea. We need tradesmen. We need electricians. We need construction workers. And we definitely need our manufacturing jobs. Like, one of the best jobs that I ever had was building trailers in Carbondale, Pennsylvania. It wasn't a cushy job, and it was hard work. Like, you got to climb up and down scaffolding all day, work with sheet metal, or, you know, screwing boards to posts on a trailer. But it was a good job. You know, I was like a bitch when I started, but after a few months, you adjust to being active. It paid $9 an hour, and I was able to live off of it. Like, today I work in IT, and I got lucky. I did not need a degree, and I know I'm one of the lucky ones. See, I grew up with computers, so like when DOS was coming out, I was learning it because my parents didn't buy us the latest gaming console. I had to learn how to make computers work if I wanted to play video games, and I did. And I thank my boomer parents for that. You know, they did encourage me to use the computer. That taught me something. There's something to say for that. But, you know, I got a couple certifications that really didn't teach me anything. But companies wanted it, and it didn't break the bank. So, look, what I'm trying to say is that for the younger people out there, I get it. You know, I do get it, and I get that the boomers don't get it. It's really damn hard to support yourself these days, especially if you don't go to college. And if you've got parents that have been inculcated with that boomer mindset and are telling you got to go to college, and like you really don't want to go, don't. Like, just don't go. They probably haven't saved anything for you anyway, and you're just going to carry student debt. So my advice for the younger generation that doesn't want to go to college, that definitely does not want to go to college, is don't go to college. You can always go later. You can always go later. But if you're interested in something else, like, or if you're looking for a career path, go into the trades, dude. Like, not everybody is cut out for college. There are plenty of people that are very smart people that just don't want to further their academic achievement for the sake of doing it. There's a lot of people that work at Starbucks right now that have $60,000 worth of loan debt and are serving coffee. I'm sure if they had to redo it again, they wouldn't have made that decision. They might not admit it, but if you told them, like, look, we're going to take away your $60,000 of loan debt, and you've never gone to college, and we're just going to take away your degree, I'm sure they would agree to that. Like, without hesitation. And I don't blame them. College has become so expensive because the government has taken over student loans. And the government has done exactly what the government does with everything, which is make it suck. Right? They're going to make it suck. They're going to pile it on. They're going to dump all over you. And they're going to actually be able to garnish your wages for it. So, for whatever it's worth, here's somebody from Generation X that fears for y'all. I hope the American dream can come back. I really do. I don't know how to bring it back. I think we're really at a point where we need another ism. We don't need communism. I know a lot of young people are lured into communism. Trust me, they just didn't educate you well enough about communism when you were in school. It doesn't work. All right, if you want to see what communism looks like, read about the Soviet Union, read the Gulag Archipelago. I don't know, look at modern-day Venezuela and ask yourself why so many people are coming from there. Ask yourself why people are taking rafts from Cuba across the Gulf of Mexico to get to America. We don't need communism. What we need is somebody to evaluate how the capitalist system is working and make sure that it's working fairly. Or we need another ism. We need somebody that's much smarter than I am to come up with a new ism. We do not need communism, but capitalism in its current form is certainly not working for the younger generation. And it's not working for the younger generation because of what the boomers did to it. I think we need our manufacturing jobs back. I think if I was going to offer any suggestions, I'd say stop letting BlackRock buy houses. Stop that. That's part of why they hate capitalism. It's because they can't afford property. And that's why they want communism. Because they don't own property. So you jackasses that are running everything, that are just, I don't know, maybe they want communism. You know, like one thing I've noticed is that rich people always push for it. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And you got to ask yourself, if you're a younger person, why would a rich person want communism? It's because those people that have are always going to have, and there's always going to be the have-nots. The really rich people will survive anything, and you guys need to get that through your heads. They're not the cause of all of your problems. I mean, they're probably the cause of some of our problems, but they're not the cause of all of your problems, and they're not the cause of all of the problems in the system. That's been built up for generations and generations. Let me say this again loudly. We don't need communism. But we do need to look at capitalism and ask what the hell is going on and why. Why are our young people so screwed? Why can't they own property? Boomers, you might want to answer that. Why can't the young people own property like you did? Because I think if you had more people that were able to, I don't know, graduate high school and own their own home instead of renting forever, you might have a different sentiment in this country. And I can't fault them for wanting communism. That's what they've been told by their idiotic professors. And to be honest with you, it sounds great because right now you have a lot of really young people that are struggling and you have a lot of really old people that don't give a fuck and don't understand why. They're all just going, well, if you just work hard. And then you've also got these really hyper-successful people that are like, well, just grind. Yes, you should just grind. You should make hay while the sun shines. But something's wrong. Like, there's something more than just that. There's only so many hours in a day that you can work. Not everybody is going to be a successful millionaire no matter how many motivational things they listen to. All right? Some people are just, they want to be able to live a decent life without a whole bunch of student loan debt on a construction job or on an electrician's job. And I don't think that's too much to ask for. I think whoever is in charge of the levers of power really needs to see what the fuck is going on with the housing market and how that's been manipulated, to be honest. All right, guys, that's all I got. Peace.